Today I want to talk about something very important: messianic deceptive methods exposed. Yehi Adonenu Morenu v'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Leolam Va'ed. Look at this. It says, the relationship of resurrection to the coming of Mashiach in classic Jewish literature. Well, I want to talk about that for a couple of minutes here. We know that Yeshua rose from the dead. Now, not only was his name given in the Hebrew Bible, listen, you have to read the Hebrew Bible. I'm talking about the Tanakh. 2 Kings 25:18, Ezra 3:2, Zechariah 6:11 and 12 says that Yeshua ben Yehozadak ben Sarayah is the one whose name, Yeshua or Yehoshua, is the name of the Tzemach ben David, Moshiach, who is coming. And that prophecy came 500 years before he showed up. You say, but he was an imposter, he was a deceiver, he wasn't the Mashiach. They stole the body, his tomb was found empty, yes, but it was all a hoax. Well, listen, we know that Yeshua rose from the dead. How do we know? The tomb was empty. Well, you say, yeah, but maybe there was a mistake. Maybe they went to the wrong tomb. Maybe these women were so silly they couldn't even find the right tomb. Well, if you open your Bible to the end of the Gospel of Mark, the Besuras Haggadah of Mark, you'll see that the Hevra Kadesha, the burial society, their first obligation was to accompany the body to the tomb to make sure that that very thing did not happen. And these women were watching as the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea was opened and the body was placed therein. So they were right there. And then at the end of the Gospel of Matthew, the Besuras Haggadah of Matthew, we know that there was a guard posted. Those that thought there would be some chicanery, so okay, let's seal the tomb. So that was done, and then also there was a 2-ton rock put in front. And then when the women came back after Shabbos was over, early on Yom HaRishon, the first day of the week, the first thing that was on their mind was, how were they going to anoint the body? How were they going to have, do these preparations that the burial society did if they couldn't even have access to the body because the tomb was sealed? But you know what? The Lord had taken care of that, and there were angels. And these women who were the first witnesses, of course, would not have been the first witnesses if it had been a trumped up affair, because a woman's testimony was not counted in the Beis Hadin, the Beis Din in court. But you see, that's exactly how it happened, not the way it would have been orchestrated to happen if it were being done by people trying to fool us. And then, of course, we know from 1 Corinthians chapter 15 that Mashiach was seen by Kepha. He was seen by all the Shulachim. He was seen by over 500 people at one time. We know this because there were even hostile witnesses who we're talking about unbelieving half-brother Yaakov ben Yosef. We're talking about Shaul of Tarsus, people who didn't want to believe, but the evidence itself convinced them. And friend, this is important because one day you're going to be in the tomb. You're thinking about writing your will, choosing a good Jewish funeral home, a nice Jewish cemetery, and all of this. Why don't you think about what's going to happen when you wake up in that tomb? Because Daniel chapter 12 verse 2 says you will awake. And, Mashiach is already awakened. Now, if we go to your bed and you're not in it, we have to assume that you woke up. And if we go to your grave and you're not in it, we have to assume that you woke up. And this is the resurrection relationship between the Tehiyas HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead, and the resurrection of Mashiach. Mashiach has his kever. It's found in Isaiah chapter 53. I think it's verse 9. The kever is the tomb, but he's not in it. So we can only assume that he awoke. And that means that he's already in his chambers. The Mashiach's Beis Din is already in session, and very soon you are going to be called before him. And one of these days you're going to wake up, and there's going to be 6 feet of cemetery dirt between you and the feet of the Mashiach who's alive. And you're going to wake up. And there won't be anyone who can help you at that time. Muhammad is in his tomb. His tomb is quite occupied. Menachem is in his tomb. His tomb is quite occupied. Menachem will not be able to help you. The only one who can help you is the Mashiach ben David, who's alive. And you won't want any religious authority who's rotting in his tomb to help you. He won't be able to help you. There's no Muhammad. There's no false Mashiach Ribbi, Buddha. No one can help you. Only the living Mashiach with the empty tomb can help you. And there's only one empty tomb in the universe. And that empty tomb was certified by eyewitnesses as empty. And these were pious Jews. Now think about this. Who went to their deaths rather than to recant their testimony. Why? Think about this. Why? Were they terrorized before, running for their life, and then a few days later, boldly proclaiming, unless they saw something that verified their faith in the Tehiyas HaMasim in general and the Tehiyas HaMoshiach in particular, that there was a resurrection, not only of the dead, but also of this particular claimant to the throne of David. He was alive. Yosef Hai, he's alive. They saw him, and his brothers saw him and recognized him, and they turned the whole world upside down. And so that, why would anyone in their right mind want to follow anybody else? I mean, look, get out a $5 bill. Look at the picture on that $5 bill. It's Abraham Lincoln, right? He's the one that freed the slaves and saved the Union. So we're not going to put anybody else's picture on that $5 bill. Why would we want to go and find some nobody who's laying over there in old Montefiore Cemetery, moldering in the grave, when Psalm 16 says the Mashiach will have no shachat, no corruption in his tomb? Why would we want to go pick some nobody and give him all the glory and all the honor when he hasn't done what the Mashiach had to do, which was to make the Kapora? And there were people who said that everybody just needs to find out how good they are and how righteous they are, and these were Gnostics, Valentinus. And there are people that don't even know. There are people here in Brooklyn that don't even know what kind of heretics they are, because they don't even know the Bible well enough to know what false doctrine they're actually teaching. But friend, don't curse him. Don't say Yushka, Yamak Shemo Vayikro. May his name and memory be blotted out. Don't curse him, because friend, you won't be cursing him when you awake in your rotting tomb. And Daniel chapter 12 verse 2 says you will awake, you will open your eyes. And I'm praying you won't open your eyes in hell like the rich man in one of Mashiach's parables. Whoever calls on the name of Yeshua HaMashiach Adonenu will be saved. But if you believe in messianic deceptive methods, if you believe in look, why would anyone want to go to extra biblical writings to augur who is the Mashiach? Why was the Tanakh written, friend? It was written so that you might know who the Mashiach is. You can't turn to extra biblical writings. Listen, the Atik Yomin, we're talking about Elohim Ha'av, Daniel 7 verses 13 and 14. He is there with the Bar Enosh, the Mashiach, who comes in the glory clouds. He's a divine being. Pei Lamed Het, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will not pay Lamed Het the idols, but all peoples will pay Lamed Het, this divine being. The Mashiach is the judge of the Masim. He's the one who's going to judge the world. And one day you're going to have to stand before him. Now, there was a short story written about somebody who awoke in his tomb, but that was fiction. This is non-fiction, friend. This is Daniel chapter 12, verse 2. Many that sleep in the dust of the earth will awake. You are going to awake. I am going to awake. We're going to be 6 feet under, and we're going to be waking up. And the only thing that's going to matter at that time is, do you know Mashiach ben David? Have you received him? You know, I tried to witness to my brother right before he died. And you know, my brother died of alcoholism. I told him, I said, Nick, I said, look, so can you imagine this if you and I were in a bar and there was a brawl and we beat this man up real bad, you and I, and then the next day after the police came and arrested us and put us in the holding tank and we were in jail, and then they came and they brought us before the judge, and we found out, lo and behold, that the one that we had beaten up was the one we have to stand before. And you see, this is what Joab, David's general, didn't understand. Ben David hanging on the tree because of his culpability in the death of Uriah. And when Nathan showed up to read the riot act and talk about the curse and the sword not leaving the house of David because of breaking the sixth commandment, thou shalt not murder, he didn't see that it was his sin that put the Ben David on the tree, pierced and hanging on the tree. Where's that? 2 Samuel chapter 18. And friend, that may be your situation today. You don't understand that it's your sin that put Mashiach on the tree. And so today you need to call, because listen, it's appointed unto men once to die and then the judgment. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. Cry out to the Mashiach and say, I believe that you are the Mashiach. Your tomb was empty. You are alive. Yosef Chai. You made the Kippur for my sins. I receive you. I confess with my mouth and I believe in my heart that Mashiach ben David, that he died in my place for me, and that he is the true Savior, the goal redeemer of the whole world. If you will believe that and receive him today, you will have Chaye Olam. And on the day of eternity, when the Mashiach raises the dead and the Techiyas Hamasim occurs, and all people stand before the judge, the shofet of Mashiach's base din, then, friend, if you know him, he will say, well done, good and faithful servant, because you served him. But if you deny him, he will deny you. And that's why we're trying to talk to you today about the messianic deceptive methods and how they need to be exposed.